Hello everyone, welcome back to Radio Reviews Revived. I am Carolina Elevers in EAS, and today we're going to be taking a look at a RadioShack radio with a temperature sensor, and that would be the RadioShack 12-255. So let's get started. Alright, so let's take a look at the radio itself first. So, here's the radio itself. As you can see, it is not that big. This radio is smaller than a 120 by a little bit, actually. It's pretty small. You've got your screen here. The temperatures for indoor and outdoor will show on each of these sides. This would be where the clock is. You have your statement watch and warning lights. Your weather button, which is very clicky. Your clock button, which is also very clicky. And this is actually a button cover right here. So behind the button cover are where all the main buttons are. So menu, up, down, left, right, and the alert switch. Which is kind of interesting because, so that means when the radio is in normal service, it looks really nice because all the buttons are hidden behind this little cover, which is actually pretty cool. And here on the back, we can see the, actually here on the side, we can see the volume and alert volume knobs. We have the port, which is 9 volts, RadioShack 12-255, all your FCC info and all that. 07AL1, so this is a, that would be July 2001, and that is the battery compartment, which is a 9-volt battery, is what this takes. So, there's our look at the radio. So we're going to get to the first feature, and that is the button beeps and the siren test. Alright, so the button beeps and the siren test. So we're going to take this button cover off so you can mess with the buttons on it. So here are the button beeps. Kind of sounds like a microwave, kind of like the 74200. And then you have your error beep. The error beep also kind of sounds like a 74200 a little bit, just higher pitched. These are also the same button beeps as the RadioShack 12-258. They're pretty basic, but I mean, just your basic microwave button beeps, but they're not bad. Now the siren test. So to do the siren test, it's a little complicated, so we're gonna have to unplug the radio. This is kind of a two-hand job, so I apologize for the bad camera. We're gonna have to hold down the weather button as we're plugging it in, so I'm gonna do that here. Kind of hard to do. Should be it. Now it says user setup. So now we hit the up arrow. That is the test beep, and then the down arrow will give us the siren. Pretty loud siren, actually. We can actually adjust it by the alert volume here. Very loud, actually. But now we're going to unplug this because I don't want to accidentally factory reset it. So we're going to unplug it here. It's kind of hard to unplug. Plug it back in. I had to put the camera down because I like to do that with two hands. I got to be careful with this one because it's pretty rare, actually. So there we go. That is the button beeps and the siren test. So now we're going to move on to the next feature, and that is the reception. Alright, the reception on the RadioShack 12-255. So, we're going to go to the weather radio options. We're going to go to select channel. And then we're going to go to manual to manually set the channel.
In the evening, then becoming mostly cloudy.
Put the antenna up here.
A chance of showers with a slight chance of thunder.
I'm going to put that up with both hands again. I should have done that at first. Whoops, I selected the channel by accident. Alright, there we go.
Northwest after midnight. 50%.
By the way, where I live, I only get one weather channel, so this is kind of unfair, but I've taken this around a little bit, and the reception is actually not bad. As you can see, it was getting my local channel just fine.
Partly cloudy in the evening, then clearing. Lows in.
Sounds very nice and clear. The antenna's pretty long, pretty big here, so it will get your local station just fine. I would say the reception on this is actually pretty good. I've had a lot of good reception experiences with RadioShack radios like this, and this is definitely one of them. So the reception on this is very good. So now we're going to move on to the speaker quality. Alright, the speaker quality on the RadioShack 12-255.
Monday night, west winds 20 to 25 knots with gusts up to 35 knots. Seas 4 to 6 feet. Wave detail.
It actually sounds pretty nice. It doesn't get rattly when you turn it up. The speaker's on the back, actually. Just forgot to note that. The speaker on this one sounds actually pretty nice. Doesn't rattle, like I said, when you turn it up. Sounds perfectly normal. I would say it's a good speaker. The speaker on these are not weak, like the RadioShack 12-258, which are known to actually... The speaker on those are actually known to give out. The speaker on these are also not weak, like the RadioShack 12-258, which those speakers are actually known to give out. But the 255 speakers do not give out, so that's really good. So now we're going to move on to the next feature, and that is the alert blocking. Alright, the alert blocking on the RadioShack 12-255. So we're going to go into the menu, we're going to go to Weather Radio, and then we're going to go to the Tone Defeat option. So when we go to Tone Defeat, you will see a few different categories of alerts. We have the warnings, the warnings, the watches, the statements, and the test alerts. This is the typical layout for statement Radio Shacks. It'll be warning, watch, statement, test. On advisory Radio Shacks, it will be just warning, watch, advisory. Now, the nice thing about these statement alert blocking menus is that since it has a test menu, if you go into the test menu, there should be an option that should have all tests, or I guess the 255 doesn't have that. I'm stupid. It does have demo message though, which I believe if you turn this on, it'll turn on all tests, and then monthly test. I don't know why it doesn't have the rest of the tests on here, but it does go off for them, so I guess that's really it for that part. But otherwise, in the Tone Defeat, you can turn on and off certain alerts that you do not want to have enabled. So like if we go to the warnings here, let's say special marine warning. Let's say you don't live by the coast, or maybe you do live by the coast and you don't want to hear the special marine warnings, you just want to hear typical weather alerts. Well, you can put the tone to off and then it will turn off special marine warnings. I'm going to keep that on. I like to have those on. But if you desire to have those off, you can turn those off, which is a pretty handy little feature because that's nice if you don't want to hear unnecessary alerts that you don't need to hear. So that is the alert blocking on the RadioShack 12-255. So now we're going to move on to the next feature, and this is probably one of the coolest features of this radio, and that is the temperature sensor. Alright, the temperature sensor on the RadioShack 12-255. So this is an outdoor temperature sensor that comes with the radio, and it is meant to be used outside as an outdoor temperature sensor, and every 30 seconds it will scan the temperature, and for those 30 seconds you will see this little light on the temperature sensor flash, which we might catch it. There it went actually. And every time it flashes, it updates the temperature on the screen here. So this is the indoor temperature. That's the outdoor temperature right there, 72.3 degrees, which is actually inside, of course, because we don't have this outside. I don't actually have a spot for it outside, so I just leave it inside. But if you'd like to use it outside, that is a really nice feature if you want to have the outdoor temperature. To open this thing, I'm not going to do that here because it's kind of hard to do because you need a screwdriver because there's 4 screws on the edges to open up the battery compartment. But basically, inside that battery compartment, which it takes 3 AA's, there is a wireless channel switch in there for 3 different wireless channels. So basically how it works is if we go to the menu here and we go to the temperature menu, we will see the indoor, outdoor, Celsius or Fahrenheit, and then the remote channel. So if we go to remote channel, there's 3 different remote channels. There's channel 1, 2, or 3. So whatever channel you have this on, if you have this on, like this is on channel 1 right now, you have this set to channel 1 and they will be connected. This is kind of nice in case there's any interference on any other remote channels. You can change the remote channel to a different channel and it will still be connected there. So I just leave mine on channel 1. I just leave that alone. That is a really nice feature, honestly, on this radio, that the temperature sensor, because it's really nice if you want to know the outdoor temperature right away. You just look at the radio and you have the outdoor temperature. So that is one of the really nice features of this weather radio. Now we're going to move on to the final thoughts on this radio. Alright, the final thoughts on this radio. Well, the RadioShack 12-255, in my opinion, is one of the nicest RadioShack weather radios that they ever made. It was produced for a very short time. It was only produced from 2001 to 2002. So there's only so many of them, and these are very, very hard to find, and they do go very, very fast on websites like eBay. But if you do find the opportunity to get one for either collector purposes or normal purposes, I would honestly really recommend this radio. This is one of the nicest RadioShack radios, especially the temperature feature, the thermometer, and all the other cool little features of this radio. It's just a really nice radio. It looks really nice as well. I would definitely recommend this radio. It holds up really well after over 20 years of existing, almost 25 going on now. Boy, time flies. This is just a really, really nice weather radio, and I would really recommend it. One little thing I actually forgot to mention is that, unlike most other Radio Shacks, though, this does not have a signal reminder. You know how most Radio Shacks have a signal reminder? Well, this one does not. It does have an alert reminder, but it doesn't have a signal reminder. So we're not going to be able to do a signal reminder segment on this video because it does not have one. So anyways, that is going to conclude the RadioShack 12-255 radio review. I am Carolina Elevators and EAS, signing off. Peace.